Fantastic. Thank you, Stacy, my beautiful wife, Stacy, the other half of Mind Body Strength, and the Stoic Tiger, and all the things that we do. So it's nice to see everybody. It's awesome. You guys are welcome to have your cameras on or off or whatever makes the most sense to you. We're gonna do a little bit of interaction as we go here. So if you want to have your chat up and ready to go, I look for a little bit of feedback as we get into things to begin with. But so for those that don't know me, I am Scotty Butcher. I have a PhD respiratory physiology and a physio by background, and I do resilience coaching, and particularly around anxiety and stress responses and things like that. So we'll get into a little bit more about how to contact me and when it might be appropriate to do that. But I just want to get things going, and I am super interested to hear how many of you have anxious thoughts. You can put your hand up or you can put me in the chat, whatever works for you. So yes, thank you, Bonnie. That was good. I saw your finger going up. Anxious thoughts. Anyone else? Abby, thanks. Yeah, Debbie, awesome. Well, not awesome that you have anxious thoughts, but actually, you know what? Anxious thoughts are normal. We often think of anxiety as an abnormal response, but actually, our anxious thoughts are normal. What we're going to get into is that while anxious thoughts are normal, our perception of them and our interpretation of those anxious thoughts is often not necessarily serving us. It doesn't necessarily serve us the way that we would want to. So, um, I'm really interested. So for those that said that they have anxious thoughts, what are the ones that come up for you the most? Just maybe drop that in the chat. If you have an anxious thought, what is it usually around? Is it around, some sort of worry that you have? Is it around, I don't know if I can handle the next day? Is it around, I don't know if someone's going to be judging me? What are the thoughts that you guys have that you would call anxious thoughts? Abby, worry. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that you're doing it wrong, the judgment one. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about the anxious responses that I have and what that does for me. You're worried if it's a slow day. That's interesting. I like slow days. So, if you mean slow day as in a slow patient day and you're not going to get paid, that I get, because then that's a financial worry. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were meaning, Abby, but and you're welcome to if you want to come on and tell us what that means if you want. But you don't have to. That's all good. Bonnie, should I have done that? Totally, right? Ruminating over the things that you should have done, or maybe you think you should have done, or that people were judging you for. Absolutely. Something else I could have or should be doing. 100%. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, those are so common. And the things about those is how much of that is true. This is what I want you to think about. Are our thoughts fact? Are they true? What do you think? Do you think let's put a one in the chat if you think that our thoughts have to be true? I should be seeing crickets. Do our thoughts have to be true? Yeah, they don't have to be true. They absolutely don't have to be true. Our thoughts can lie to us, in fact, and that's the whole reason we're here, is to talk about how our thoughts lie to us. Now, for those thoughts that you have, for those of you that have anxious thoughts, I want you to take just a quick second and think about what would it mean to you if you didn't have those anxious thoughts, or if your body and your brain and your mind interpreted those thoughts differently. What would it mean to you? What would you be able to accomplish in the day? Or what would you be doing instead of this? Or how would this positively affect you? Take a second and just think about that. What would it mean for you to be able to reframe those anxious thoughts in a positive way? You can work better, Abby. Absolutely. More productive, more focus, more focus, less stress, more drive, more doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, right? The thing that a lot of people don't understand about anxiety is that it because they're lying thoughts, they're thoughts that aren't true. They take our focus away. They make us stressed. Take away our control. Everything that you guys are putting here in the chat, it's absolutely 100% true. So what we want to do is we want to be able to find ways to reframe this. We want to find ways that we can change our anxious thoughts. But so this is really the main purpose of the workshop today that we're having. So I'm going to share my screen, and Stacy, you're going to watch the chat for me because I won't be able to see the chat. And we're going to hold questions to the end, unless you guys have something that's like, I really need to get this story out or whatever. Just pop that into the chat, and Stacy will interrupt me, and then we can go forward. So, all right, let me share my screen. No videos today, so I don't need to do that. And I learned from last time that this doesn't automatically go away, so I am going to, whoa, come back. Hide floating controls. There we go. Does that look good, Stacy? Is that full screen looking good?
Can still see like at the top you're viewing Scotty's screen view options. Do you think
Oh,
that
yeah,
is
that'll stay there as
okay?
long as everything else is
Perfect.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Fantastic. Okay. Let me just find the right thing here. Okay, here we go. So this is the talk. This is some ways to get a hold of me. If you need to get a hold of me, I would highly just recommend follow me on the Stoic Tiger on Instagram. If you don't have Instagram, that's okay. You can send me an email or reach out after this webinar. You'll get a follow-up email with some details. So, all right, let's get into this. So, a lot of people wonder who a Stoic Tiger is. I'm not going to go through a big story here that I do sometimes, but I just want you to think about um, this kind of thing. And so what the Stoic Tiger is, it's really philosophical psychophysiology. And I'm going to tell you what that means in a second, because that's a whole whack of phys words and that kind of thing. So I look at a Stoic Tiger as someone who builds internal strength and resistance to external stressors and works daily to improve their capacity to deal with anxiety, overwhelm, and stress in a productive, emotionally, and physiologically resilient manner. So if you think of if you hear me talk about Stoic Tiger, that's mostly what I'm talking about is that really what this is. And when I run my anxiety resilience work and run the program that I run, it's really based on the science of the mind, body, spirit connection. It's all three of these things are massively important, but it is the science. This isn't woo. This isn't going off to I mean, as much as a lot of people love yoga and meditation retreats, they can get a little woo woo sometimes, or breathwork retreats. They can be up there. This is the science behind all of this put into practice. And this is what I love about it is science based, but very extremely effective in terms of helping with people's anxiety. So I look at the spirit side of thing as the philosophical, the mind as the psychological, and the body as the physiological. So philosophical psychophysiology. All right, why do we do this? Well, this is one of Stacy's favorite movies. This is Inside Out, and I am so pumped that there's a second Inside Out. I know Stacy's probably more excited than I am, but I am pumped because of the addition of a new character, anxiety. If you don't know my story, anxiety has been a part of my adult life for 25+ years. I've had anxiety where I have been learning how to deal with this. My story is a long one where I went a good portion of my adult life without knowing even that I had anxiety because nobody talked about it back then. Particularly men didn't talk about it. And it took me a long time to get diagnosed and to really understand how to approach it. So I won't go into too much detail on that now. But I do want you to think about something, and when I was talking about the mind body connection and the science behind it, I do want you to understand that this is really good quality science around frequency and energy, and a lot of that has so much to do with the way that we approach things or our mindset on things. It's also about knowing the way our body responds. And like Einstein here was fond of saying that this is physics. right? I think this is biological, physical, as well as psychological and philosophical as well. Okay, so I take when I have people come into my anxiety resilience program, I take them on a journey, and this is part of what we do here. And part of the journey, the first part of the journey is really to understand anxiety and individuals' anxiety. Then we go into regulating the nervous system and applying mindset and physiology to their situation and understanding that we have a growth mindset. That's all. That's sort of the a major, real high bird's eye view of what we do in our anxiety program. But I'm going to focus on just a few things here where we're talking about do our thoughts lie to us, as we have talked about as well. And I'm going to just start initiating a little bit on why you flip your lid because I think that's super important. So all right, you guys were very generous in giving us some anxiety related thoughts that probably are lying. I listed off a whole bunch of mine, and so I'm gonna show you this, and I want you to put in the chat. I'm not gonna be able to see it, so Stacy, you can tell me if we're getting these numbers in the chat. But if you have any one of these as a response that you've told yourself or your anxiety has told yourself, I want you to put a one in the chat. Okay, this should be fun. We should see lots of ones. Every time you see one that resonates with you, I want you to put a one in the chat, even if it's multiple. Okay, here we go. My lying anxiety tells me I can't do it. Tells me that if I try, I'm going to fail and miserably. When will you rest? This is one that not a lot of people think about. When are you actually going to rest when you look at all of these things that you have to do in front of you? You're not good enough, right? That's one that you can talk about psychological histories and going back to childhood and things like that. This is not a therapy session. Therapy sessions are massively important, but it's important to understand where a lot of this comes from and what it relates to. So I'm not good enough. People are going to judge me. People are always judging you a step up from the last one. What if I fail? Oh, I can't do it. Got to cancel my plans, cancel my schedule, cancel my appointments, cancel so I can think that I can rest. And if I can't do it right, I'm not going to do it at all. Perfectionism is an anxiety related response in many cases. Nope, don't have time for this. I can't make time for this. I don't have time to do what I need to do. I can't handle this. It's too much. I'm not capable. I'm supposed to be better than I am. Like, why do I suck so much? All of these things are thoughts that have gone through my mind. So Stacy, give me an estimate here. How many ones in the chat right
The chat was blowing up for sure. I don't know, probably well over
now?
20. Well
Yeah,
over.
I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
surprised. This is so common. This is so common. And I think that's an important message for all of us to understand is that you're not alone in this, right? You might think like, well, I'm supposed to be better. Why do I suck? You know what? A lot of us think that, and that can be in many cases an anxiety response. So all right, that's all well and good, right? So I have these thoughts. Well, what does that actually do, and what does it prevent me from doing? And this is where I'm going to go into the effects of it, and this is what I want you to think about as well. So I want you in the chat, we're going to do twos this time. So through all of these effects, I want you to just read through these and just go. So if you have three of these that affect you, I want you to go two, two, two. So three twos. Okay. So have a quick read, count the number of ones that resonate with you that have an effect because of your anxiety, and drop that number of twos in the chat. And Stacy, let me know as they come up what we're getting.
We have a few twos rolling in.
Mm-hmm. What's the most number in one line?
I think people want you to re-explain what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, just if you resonate, so you look at this list and there's five of them that you do or that are effects for you. I want you to put five twos across. Just go two, 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 and hit enter. If it's six, do six twos. If it's one, do one two. I made this way more complicated than it needed to be.
So we have a few people with 1, 2. We have a couple that have 3 2s, 4 2s.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the effects are different on everybody, right? But I mean, a lot of these things are things that inhibit what we need to be able to do in our lives, right? If we want to be successful in our careers, in our family lives, in our relationships, we have to address this. This isn't something that we can just let go, right? One of the biggest lies that anxiety tells us is suck it up. You're stronger than this. You need to suck it up and just deal with it. Now, the you're stronger than this part is probably 100% true. But the fact of you masking or hiding is completely not the right approach. It's the one that wears you down and turns you into this lying on the ground, really dysregulated type of person that you see here. Okay. We need to deal with this. But first, we need to understand it. So let's just do a little tiny bit of anatomy and physiology. Super important to understand this. I'm going to make this as simple as I can, and I know a lot of people. Well, I know there's some health professionals on the call. They probably nerd out over this stuff. If you're not, you probably don't. So I'm going to make it easy. All right. So there's a theory that we have three general regions of our brain that are important, and whether this is anatomically and physiologically 100% true, there is some rationale to this. So and this has been shown in research. So let's start with the most ancient brain, or part of our brain, is the reptilian brain. This is basically our brain stem, which is partly the hippocampus. It has the basal ganglia, all these wonderful anatomical words, but it is designed around instinct and survival. So when you get what we call a sympathetic nervous system response, which is fight, flight, freeze, and sometimes fawn, those responses, if you've heard that, that comes from activation of the reptilian brain. It's a survival brain and survival mechanism. The next step up, which is not quite as old, but still very, very old, is the limbic brain, which forms within this. There's the hippocampus as well as the amygdala, and these are emotional centers. So basically, if you look at these centers and combine with different responses you get from the body and from your thinking, this becomes the emotional generation center. So this also appreciates meaning along things. It promotes memory and social attachment. So this is the type of brain that's really important for you to interpret the signals that you're getting from the reptilian brain, and your emotions come from that. So your emotions are basically an interpretation of what the limbic brain thinks of the reptilian brain's responses. Okay. And this is really important to understand, that it is very much not a high level thinking. It's stress, run. It's stress, anger, fear, run, fight, pretend I'm dead, all of these things. That's the level of interpretation that the limbic brain has. All right. Next one is the rational brain, and this is unique to humans, where we have this high level of thinking, which really comes from this neocortex. And this is where our thoughts, our speech, our logic, all of this center comes from. This brain is the one that makes maps of all of the input that it gets. It creates associations. It creates, like, why is this doing this and how does it relate to that? And particularly, there's this area called the prefrontal cortex, which is right at the front here. And that is the brain, or part of the cortex, that allows us to integrate all brain areas, all body responses, and including the social interactions. So this is a massively important part for us in terms of regulating our bodies and our responses, are being able to access this prefrontal cortex. And I'm going to give you a quick little hint as to what happens with anxiety is we turn this section off, and it makes the thoughts not go through the neocortex, but go through the other parts of the brain which don't associate things well. All right. Now, this is a great model. This is the hand brain model. It's from Daniel Siegel. He's out of the States somewhere. I can't remember the university, but it's basically saying if you want to explain this to a family member or a client or whatever it happens to be, is you can use your fist as a model of the brain, basically what you see here. And so you see that the prefrontal cortex is going to be these parts of the fingers here. You're going to see the limbic brain is your thumb. Your reptilian brain is your palm. And so we talk about flipping your lid as what happens with excessive stress and dysregulation and anxiety. So this is something we don't want to do. But this is an awesome model. I love it because it really can show people so much about what happens when the limbic and the reptilian brains take over. Okay. So flipping your lid is a disengagement of your cortical brain, particularly your prefrontal cortex. And so it looks something along this lines. Okay. So what we're doing here, what my hand is doing here, is showing you the process of engaging and disengaging your cortex and your prefrontal cortex. Okay. What happens with this and why this happens is that, well, there's a number of reasons that can happen with this, but more often than not, if we look at the reptilian brain, which is down at the wrist and the palm, and we take the limbic brain, which again is the emotional brain at the thumb, these brains, if we are dysregulated, and often this happens because of a past trauma, a past association with some fear that wasn't dealt with well. Sometimes it's a genetic thing. There are chemical reasons for this. There's so many potential reasons that these brains take over. This is one of the big things that happens with anxiety is that we see that these brains, the older brains, take over. And you can almost think when the hand is opening up and the lid is being flipped, it's because these brains are becoming so active that they basically blow the prefrontal cortex out of the skull, which obviously doesn't happen like that, but it's a way of thinking about, they bring it up, and now this prefrontal cortex is disengaged. When the prefrontal cortex is disengaged, then all of the thoughts that we have going into our mind come from the emotional brain and its interpretation of the fight or flight or safety responses that we get from the lower brains. So this is not filtered thought. You can think of the cortex as doing an amazing job of filtering and creating associations and interactions. When we're dysregulated and we have this excessive response to stress, the lid flips and we can't think rational thoughts. This is why anxiety lies to you, because we're not thinking these rational thoughts, because our thoughts are coming from the lower parts of our brain and we have disengaged our cortex and our prefrontal cortex. All right. So what do we do about it? That's the reason it happens. We can see that it happens. We know that thoughts lie to us. We've seen that, I know I'm good enough. If I have my prefrontal cortex engaged, I know that I can do the work that I'm doing and I'm passionate about it and I love it and I'm good at it. But my brain doesn't always think that way because I might be in a situation like this where my lid is flipped. So, what do I have to do? And what in my program, what do I do for myself? What do I do for my clients? And how does this work? Well, obviously, we want to re engage the cortical brain. At some point in time, we have to do this. And there's different methods of doing this. I look at external and internal methods. So there are external methods that you can almost think of as pushing the cortical brain back down. There's also internal methods that you can almost think of as pulling those fingers down. Okay. There is also emotional brain regulation, which would be taking care of the emotional side of things. And then there's also the reptilian brain regulation, which again would take care of that side. So there's a lot of things that I do as part of my program that incorporate basically a wide variety of techniques that are designed to get at the whole picture for you. I do not do cognitive therapy. I do not do physiological therapy or emotional therapy. This is a combination of putting the mind, body, spirit together in such a way that it works the way it's supposed to work. And this is why my program is so successful. With the re-engaging the cortical brain, some of the things we do with this in terms of pushing, these are external influences of things that you can think about and do. Cognitive work is part of that. Mindset work is a huge part of that. Mindfulness in and of itself can do a really big have a really big effect on pulling that internally those fingers down, so re-engaging the prefrontal cortex. And it does that by bringing this online, bringing the cortex online, but also regulating the emotional side. So it's a fantastic method of having a combined effect that allows us to bring the cortical brain back online. There is emotional cognitive type work that we can do that can also get at this as well, and that is also part of the program. One of the massive parts that you won't see in most counseling sessions is working on the somatic side, which basically means using the body to influence the brain or our nervous system work. And so in the Stoic Tiger program, all of these things are important because I don't believe that you can address one component that addresses one part of the brain primarily without addressing the entire response, which it helps you from a holistic perspective and helps you even prevent anxiety, let alone just manage anxiety. Okay, key points here, and then I'm going to wrap it up. I want you to know and really understand that you are not your thoughts. Okay, I'm going to say that again. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are like passing logs in a stream, they're like passing clouds. It's like the wind blowing a leaf by. Those are your thoughts. Now, with your prefrontal cortex engaged, you can integrate and interpret and do all the things that wonderful things that us humans can do, right? And I know you can do this, even when you're thinking, I can't do this. All right. But I know you. One of my mentors currently says, I know you because you're a human. And I love that. You're a human and you are not your thoughts. So next time you have one of these thoughts, one of the first steps is to be like, where did that come from? And that's not true. Okay. Easy example situation, you see a dog. Now, you might have some past trauma around a dog. You may not like dogs, or you may never have seen a dog in your entire life. Any of these perceptions could be interpreted by our brain as the dog is dangerous. So it's going to bite me, it's going to hurt me. There's a fight or flight type of response that might happen here. So what does that relate to? That causes you to feel scared, anxious, worried, fear, dread, avoidance, all of these things. Reinterpret that by re-engaging your prefrontal cortex, and you might go, with all the integration and knowledge you have, you might not react and say, danger. You might go, oh, cute. Or you might go, well, I don't really like dogs, but I know it's not going to hurt me because it's on a leash and I'm over here, and all of those things, right? Now, there is a reason to be scared if the dog is loose and actually actively coming towards you to bite you. This is where you want your fight and flight nervous system to be fully active. And in this case, you run or you fight or you do what you need to do. But it's the irrational fear by just seeing a dog that sometimes just reacts that way. And what we can think of is we can think of our emotional brain and our reptilian brains as having an alarm system. So it's like, I see a fire. Well, I'm going to turn on the alarm because there's a fire. Well, what I don't know and what these parts of your brain haven't interpreted is someone smoking a cigarette? That's a fire. Do we need to turn on a smoke detector or a smoke alarm for that? Well, no. Is it a raging fire that's burning down a building? That's a different thing, right? Our amygdala often misinterprets, it misfires and causes us to overreact. This is what causes that prefrontal cortex to blow up, our lid to flip, and us not to have the rational thought around that. So our job is to reframe the situation so that we can interpret it appropriately and go, oh, that dog is cute, and we can stay calm because of it. All right. Last couple of slides. Recognize and restructure. This is really important for you to start to recognize your anxiety. Now, it's not as simple as just going, oh, that was an anxious thought. Sometimes that can happen. Sometimes you can be like, oh, that was an anxious thought. That's not real. That was just my anxiety. I'm going to reframe that. In an ideal world, we'd all be able to do that all the time. The reality is we often can't. And the more dysregulated we are, the more anxious we are, the more problems we have with our stress and anxiety responses, the harder that is. This is one of the reasons why we have to address things from multiple angles. We can't just recognize and restructure. We also have to reframe the mindset, and we also have to re-regulate the nervous system. Everything together is important. And what I do that I think is particularly unique is taking the nervous system's responses and layering on both the emotional and the cognitive side of things. And more often than not, you're not going to find an anxiety program that'll do that. Okay, but these are some power messages that I want you to remember. And you can, if you want, send me an email or shoot me an Instagram and I can give you the slides for this. But I want you to remember these or write them down. These are important. Okay. Anxious thoughts can go away. And you know what? They will. Your anxious thoughts will stay with you as long as you allow them to be with you. Now, that seems simple, right? That seems like, oh, I'll just tell them to go away. At the end of the process, when you get good at what you're doing, sure, you can do that. But there's a whole whack of things that has to happen before that's simply what it is. Now, eventually they will go away, whether it's a long time or a short time. Anxiety and the responses and the thoughts around anxiety are temporary. I can get through this. I'm going to talk about this one in the last slide, just a little bit more detail, but this is really important. The worst won't happen or likely won't happen. Probably most anxiety responses come from you going through the list of all the potential things that could go wrong. And often we fixate on the worst, right? But in many situations, it's not the worst thing. So this is the lying. This is the where your thoughts can lie to you because you don't know what's going to happen. You can only prepare, and preparing is different than stressing and worrying and being fearful. You can look at the big picture. Will this matter tomorrow or in an hour or a week or a month or a year? Right? Is this situation, once I'm out of it, or once I realize what's going on, is it really going to matter? And all the story that I tell you as part of the last slide, as something that is absolutely crucial in this process. All I have to do right now is breathe. Love this one too. These are simply only just my anxious thoughts. I don't have to believe them. If you know someone out there, like the boy that cried wolf, anxiety is the boy that cried wolf. Lie, 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 lie. But you need to put your prefrontal cortex on so that you know the time that it's not lying, right? You don't have to believe your anxious thoughts until you have the evidence by using your senses, integrating, using your cortex, prefrontal cortex to integrate your thoughts to reframe this. Now, here's my powerful story. And I'm going to tell you it's a powerful story because it's one that I specifically went through as part of the work that I'm doing. Okay. I had a young teenager, 14 years old, that I worked with. He was so anxious, he was having trouble making basic rudimentary decisions. His prefrontal cortex was disengaged much of the time. His lid was flipped. His amygdala was like on fire. Okay? Really dysregulated. What he needed to learn is a combination of things. All I need to do right now is to breathe. And I taught him the most appropriate method for him how to breathe effectively and appropriately for the circumstances. We know that the breath is a huge tie-in. It's like a bridge between the body and the mind. So learning how to breathe effectively is crucial. Then the second piece to this is I had this young dude repeat to himself when he was in an anxious moment, you got this. And I kept telling him, you got this. And he kept saying, I don't got this. I don't got this. I don't have it. I don't believe you. I know you believe in me, but I don't believe in me. Right? Tragic. But you continue the work of putting things together, regulating the nervous system, regulating the emotions, putting on the right mindset, a growth mindset of, you know what? You can do this. And I know you can do it because you're a human. You can conquer your anxiety. You can prevent your anxiety. And like this young gentleman who was off school for weeks, you can jump right back in and go, I got this. Powerful. He was off school for more than a month. And I don't say this to say that, oh, I'm amazing. I say this to say that the work works. It works. And you got this too. Number 3 is in the chat. If you feel like, man, I just really want to believe in my heart that I got this. Really think about it. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what part of what I've been talking about connects with you the most. But I want you just to see, is there any part of you that says, I wish I could say to myself every time, I got this? Stacy, let me know where we're at.
Yeah, we have some threes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was me for my adult, almost my entire adult life. I didn't believe in myself. I was a high performer, right? I have a PhD. I went through my PhD without knowing I had anxiety, but having anxiety. The number of times I wanted to quit, that I canceled research appointments, that I canceled other appointments, that I didn't feel like I could work. I didn't feel like I was doing it right. I didn't want to meet with my supervisors because I was scared of being judged, feeling like I didn't got it. I faked it, and you know what it did to me? It killed me almost, literally. Literally almost killed me. And figuratively too, because I would come home from long days or really putting that mask on, and I would feel like, what am I going to do? I don't have the energy for anything. That is anxiety, and I didn't even know it. How terrible is that? We need to know it, right? We need to know, because I needed to know that I got this, right? I could fake it and I could be like, okay, like I can put on some confidence and I can jump in front of students and teach, but I didn't know it, not in my heart. Okay. I needed to know it. And I'll tell you, if you have anxiety that's holding you back, or you know someone that has anxiety that's holding you back in any way, this is the opportunity for them to be like, I got this, or please help me learn to know that I got this. That is what I do in my program, and that is how I help the people that I serve. Okay, speaking of serving, this is a sheet that I use. I want you to have this. So I'm going to email this out to you. It's one that I use that helps you think about your lying thoughts and start the process of finding out, well, why are they lying? What is that doing to me? And how do I now take this information and integrate it into a whole body approach that's going to effectively prevent my anxiety? Okay, so I'm going to give this to you by email. Use it if you want. But what I'm going to offer you is, if any of this made sense to you, if you put a 3 in the chat, okay, that you wish in some way, shape, or form that you could tell yourself, I got this. I want you to start filling this out and then contact me. Let's book a call, and I want to help you through this. I want to help you figure out what situations are causing your anxious thoughts. How are they lying to you? And what are the other components of your anxiety that we can help you with and help you get through this? Because I know you got this, because I know you, but I need you to learn how you got this, and I can help you with that. All right. So, on that note, My info's here again. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I would love to take some questions. So let me just try and get out of here. My screen is still sharing, isn't it, Stacy?
Yep. Yeah,
I
I
always
can
do this.
do
Oh, there
it.
we go.
I can
Okay, stop
stop
sharing.
it.
There.
There we go.
No, got it. I got it. Got it. Oh, 44 messages. I see the chat now. Are there any questions in there, or are these all ones, twos, and threes?
Mostly one, twos, and threes. But Abby had said, I'm just scrolling up when you were talking about the way you use your hand as showing the brain. He had said, "Wow, that is a lot of ones and twos. It's taking me a minute to get to it." He loved the analogy, and I can't find it. Um, he used to use the horse and a rider analogy. So I don't know that analogy, but he really appreciated you using that one. It really helped him.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you're very welcome, Abby. Um, I, I would assume the horse and rider is, something about the top brain and the bottom brain and all that kind of thing. I'm gonna look into that because I actually don't know that one. That's not one I've heard. So, but I absolutely can relate to the concept of having a rider helping control the horse. Oh, I'm getting it now. Okay, so the rider is the human, the prefrontal cortex, the cortical brain. The horse, it has the other two components, has the other two brains. Ah, love it. Okay, that's cool. We can chat. We can chat another time too, Abby. If yeah, correct. Thanks. Elephant and Rider, Carlton. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to look these up because I think these these are fantastic ones because they relate to the animals that we've been talking to as well. All right. How does anxiety interact with the depression and what causes that? There is a very, very, very strong relationship between anxiety responses and depression. Now, they are considered two separate entities. And again, I am not a mental health therapist. I am a coach that understands these processes well. But anxiety often, what'll do is actually, Stacy, make a note. Next webinar, this is what we're going to do. Next webinar, I'm going to go into anxiety and depression and how that relates to nervous system regulation because it's going to follow directly from this. Okay. Um, Anxiety is typically when we're up at a high level of regulation. Depression is once we get so bad, and this is the theory around depression, is that it's when we get so bad anxiety and overwhelm and stress responses that we crash. And that crash can last a long period of time. Okay, it's that was a very simple explanation. There is much more detail to it than that. And Bonnie, if if or anyone else for that matter, if you want to jump on a call and chat about that, just let me know and we can do that. But I also will address that at the next webinar for sure. Anxiety and complex trauma. Thanks for the question, Karen. That's an awesome question. So the complex trauma piece comes from it comes often from the it causes anxiety often because it dysregulates the nervous system. So complex trauma is an event or series of events or situations that happen that your body processes as okay, I am affects me personally. All of these potential things. Am I breaking up here, Stace? Or am I good?
Um, you did for just a second there, but you're back.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm back again. Okay, thank you. So it's the complex trauma is stored through your limbic brain and your reptilian brain, stored as a traumatic response. Your body then interprets that. Think about taking off the prefrontal cortex and cortical brain. So, no interpretation, it's all reaction. So, you're fearful. That's an emotional response that gets tied into the reptilian brain, which basically regulates your body's physiology from a reaction perspective. Those two brains are connected. And without the prefrontal cortex on, which happens in trauma because we often dissociate our thoughts and what happens. It gets stored. It gets stored in the body. It gets stored in the body's responses. And so this is where you're going to see things like muscle tension. You're going to see racing heart. You're going to see muscle aching, tingling in the fingers, shortness of breath, feelings of, I'm going to die, like these sort of things that are physiological reactions to an emotional response. So if you've had something like that, that can lead to a full out PTSD and post traumatic stress disorder, or and in some cases can lead to really the overreactivity of those, particularly the amygdala, actually in the limbic brain, the emotional brain, particularly the amygdala, increases in size, increases in its function. It's almost like exploding. And so anytime you have something that causes a similar reaction, a similar trigger, it blows up, flips your lid, and then all these thoughts happen. So there's a very strong relationship, which is related to usually situational, or at least feeling like things are similar, that cause these primal brains to be more active and flip the lid more frequently. Yeah, thanks, Carlton. Hands get cold because of tight pec muscles. It's a sign you need to re-regulate. Totally, right? Debbie, you're rubbing your shoulders and your arms there. Is this you too? Oh, tight muscles. My hands are cold. Need to re-regulate? It's totally true. And that's your body's response, Debbie, right? And Carlton too. That's your body's response to whatever feelings of not being safe. Now, you're sitting in your rooms right now, and if you're feeling these things, it's not that you're unsafe, but you don't know that. You flipped your lid. It's just a body's reaction. This is why doing cognitive work only isn't as effective as a comprehensive approach. Okay? Always think about, if something's going on, particularly if my thoughts are dysregulated, I'm feeling something going on, tight muscles, I've got cold hands, I've got racing heart, you know that there's a regulation issue that we need to deal with from all three components: emotions, primal instincts, and cognitively. Okay. Massively effective work to get this done. Massively effective. It's hard work. This is why you need someone to help you with it, because it's hard work. You need accountability. You need people to support you. And this is what I do. This is my life's purpose. I am here now on this earth doing what I'm doing right now, which is different than I've been doing for 49 years of my life. Well, not quite that many, but I've been doing for a significant portion of my life. My life's purpose now is to bring this together and help people understand this, because it is so important and people don't understand, and I want them to understand. So if this is you, if you need help understanding, just reach out and let's have a chat. Abby, what information, or at what point medication should be considered? Now, this is a touchy, not touchy, but it's a complex conversation. Um, Regulating yourself, doing it by yourself, even doing it with someone that can coach you through the process, isn't going to be, well, I'm going to hit medication and that. So what I do is I do an assessment of my clients as they come in, and I look at the severity of their anxiety and their responses. And I have a very low screening level that if it seems like they could be appropriate to see a physician or a psychiatrist or a counselor, somebody that can help them with that, I will refer and help them at the same time, because this work is supportive. So you can be on medications. And here's the thing: if you need to be on medications, you should be on medications. Okay. You should be on medication if you need to be. Medication is not a sign of weakness. Medication is a sign that your brain needs help learning how to redo all the brain things that the brains are supposed to do with everything going on. I'm not going to do that for you. I'm going to help you identify that. If you don't know, I will help you identify that. But I'm not going to do that for you. I will say, you know what, you need to go see your doctor. Let's get this under control. And in the meantime, let's do our best to work with the regulation, work with the responses that we're seeing. Okay. Medication is massively important. I do take anxiety medication. I have for a number of years, and it has helped this much. For some people, it's everything, almost everything. Helps me this much. But if I don't take it, I know that I'm not going to do well. Okay. So it's a varying response, but I do firmly believe that you should look at taking it. It is a subjective thing. I can't tell you at what point because it's different for everybody. But if you're wondering and you're not sure, let's jump on a call and let's talk about it. And I can help you through that. Okay.
Scotty, did you want me to drop the link for your one-on-one call in the chat?
Yeah, Stacy, let's do that, Stacy. Which one are you dropping? Because I've blocked off a bunch of stuff. Is it
Okay, maybe you,
the Jane one?
yeah.
Yeah. Tell you what, Stacy's going to drop the link, and I will go in and refine it over the next little while. If you don't see something that works for you time wise, then just either select a waiting list and then we'll get back to you, or just send me an email or an Instagram and we'll find a time to work together. Okay. Otherwise, you can use the link that Stacy just put on there. Yes, Bonnie, I do work with clients online. Actually, that's the main part of my program is remote. What I do, because it's a physiological program, is I actually, if you join my program, I send you out some tech that allows us to measure your nervous system, and then everything else we do by talking and working through a bunch of things. But I can help you with measuring your nervous system and knowing part of the regulation piece that comes along with the biofeedback. So the somatic work and the nervous system work is based on biofeedback, which I didn't talk too much about today, but it's just an amazing way of understanding what your nervous system is doing at any point in time. And we go through an assessment of what your nervous system is like, and I teach you how to do the regulatory methods remotely. Now, if you happen to be local or can come to Saskatoon, I also have an in-person assessment as well, but I also do this remotely for sure. And I'd be very, very, very happy to talk to you in more detail about what that looks like and what the process is if you're interested. Sounds awesome. I am in. Abby, I am looking forward to working with you. Let's have a call and let's figure all this out for sure. And anyone else for that matter as well. I'm like I said, this is something that I'm very passionate about. I have dropped my. For those of you that know me, I was a university professor. I am no longer a university professor. I work full time in my coaching business, and this is all I do because I believe in it so much. So I will dedicate, and my promise to anyone that comes into the program is that I will do everything that I possibly can. Bonnie, do you have a question?
Oh, sorry, I did. I don't know what to do with links in chat. So could you just send it on an email?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll send it out along with that document he showed. We'll send all
Okay,
that out right after this.
great, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome. I
Thanks,
also
Bonnie,
just
and
wanted
thanks,
to,
Stacy.
yeah, no worries. I also just wanted, I think I have a question for everybody because I took something away on that second last slide where you wrote out down some affirmations, I guess. And the one that I wrote down because I loved it is all I have to do right now is breathe. Like sometimes that's just what you need to remember is as long as you're breathing, you're okay. So I don't know, was there anything on that slide that anybody else took away? Because that to me, I don't know, that resonated with me tonight. So yeah, Debbie's saying she loved that too. So yeah.
Yeah, I can see it now. And it's awesome because honestly, when you're in a state where you're completely dysregulated and your thoughts are just racing, you don't know what to do, right? And if all you have in your head is all I have to do is breathe, all I have to do is breathe. And then at some point in time, you'll go exactly what Karen just said, you got this, right? All I have to do is breathe. And then when you have the ability to say, I got this, you add that in, right? All I have to do is breathe and I got this. Oh, and you were safe, Karen. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, that is so, so powerful. What we know about the way the nervous system works. And I'm a huge fan of polyvagal theory, where they really get in talking about the safety and the threat aspect of things, and how the different nervous system components are a part of that. Safety is huge. And so telling people you're okay, sometimes you need co-regulation. You need someone with you to say, I got you too. You're okay. You're safe. You're with me. I can help you. Yeah, you are safe. Huge. I'm going to add that for the next webinar. Thank you. All right. 3 minutes to go. I can take one more question if anyone has one. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. Just if you're typing a question, keep typing. If not, if we don't have any more questions, what I want to say is thank you very much for your attention. You guys were an amazing interactive group, and this is super powerful. Yes, video, Abby. We'll send you out the replay so you can watch this again. But I do want to thank you. You guys were amazing as an audience. I am sincere in saying that this is my life's work, and if I can help you in any way whatsoever, I would love to do so. So let's chat, reach out. No obligation phone call. Just we'll just have a chat and see where things go from there. All right. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I think everybody's sort of semi-local, so it's evening time for most people. So enjoy your evening, and by all means, feel free to book an appointment to reach out and we'll chat. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.